You are listening to the People-Centric Podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do.
Hey, people-centric leaders. It is so exciting when we get people who send us stuff. We get super, super excited when people send us stuff. They send us topics, they send us articles, they send us stuff that's out there. And so we had my good friend, Brian Fogel, based in Springfield, Missouri, used to be the CEO of CFO, is now teaching some classes at Drury University and doing some other things. We got to meet for breakfast and we were talking about conflict in the workplace and other really cool topics, things like that, that he has solved so many of those problems over his time in his tenure in his career. He's definitely somebody I look up to as a mentor and just a community leader. And he sent me this article from The Economist, and it is A Short Guide to White Collar Warfare is the title of the article. And I was reading the short guide to
So
white.
dramatic.
It's a
My
short guide
goodness.
though. It's not that dramatic. It's
Yeah,
a
it's not
short
like
guide
the
to.
art of war. It's just a brief guide to warfare.
Yeah, it's not like Sun Tzu's art of, how to kill somebody with a stapler or anything like that. It's just warfare and white collar warfare. But reading the article, first of all, two things I observed from the article is it's well written, it's kind of fun. Economist, good job, nice job. Second thing is it really applies to a lot of different things, but they really don't talk about what to do with it. Like it's a good evolution in the article. It talks about the different steps of if you've ever had an argument with somebody at work, whether it's white collar or blue collar or whatever kind of job you're in, whether you're executive or frontline staff, if you've ever gotten into a disagreement with anybody at work, then I think this will speak to you in some different ways. So we're going to talk a little bit through the evolution of that. When do you escalate it? When do you not escalate it? How do you get out of it? Because we want you to stop fighting. Because we're frankly tired of your whining and your complaining to us as clients and friends of ours. We want you to just get along. We want you to just do your thing. That's what we want you to do. So today we have Diana and Stephanie and myself, Don, and we're going to do this for you. We're gonna walk through this. Diana, have you ever had a fight at work with anybody before?
Never, not one time. No,
Not one time.
no,
She's
never.
the
I'm
perfect angel.
totally pleasant to work with every day, all day.
Okay, that's great. Stephanie, have you ever had a fight with anybody at work then?
Aw, man, you know the answer to this question.
Have you fought? How many fights today have you had at work?
I instigated no fights today.
Today is the keyword.
Instigated is the
Instigated.
other keyword to that.
That's
Today.
true.
No,
That's-
I'm joking. I'm joking. It's been a long time since I've had like conflict with someone at work. But if you know me or you listen to the podcast, you know I'm a little fiery sometimes. I'm also a little stubborn. And so younger Stephanie sometimes combined those with passion and used her powers for evil, not good.
Well, now
So
I feel attacked, Stephanie. Thanks a lot. Like, is this another intervention? I'm so sick and tired of these like interventions on our podcast.
Diana and I have never fought at
We
work. So maybe
haven't.
that's where like our powers align.
That's true. We're both stubborn. We're both sassy.
Mhm.
What fiery?
We're gonna get it done. So
We're gonna get
like
it done.
get on board or
Yeah.
move out of the way, right? Like
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we don't fight each other because we know that would go really poorly for both of
yeah.
us.
Yeah.
This is what
But
I'm
also
doing.
like I just think you know you're really smart and right most of the time.
Oh,
So
I think the same about you.
oh my gosh.
So there's no reason to fight.
Do I need to be
Everyone
here?
should be as brilliant as us.
Do you guys need me on this one? You want me to just bow out on this one? I
No,
don't.
we
I
do.
was gonna say that you said it's been a really long time since you've had a fight at work, and I was like, I think I had one last week. I don't know, that's not been that long.
I guess maybe I should ask all of you when was the last time? Because in my mind, it's been a while since I have had conflict with someone, but maybe you all feel differently about me.
Well, it's a good question in terms of like a fight versus conflict. I like that language a little bit. And I would say, like, Stephanie, when you said, like, I spent a while since we've had conflict at work, I could say, I think I could point to conflict we've had in the last week. I'll bet we have some kind of form of conflict every week at our office.
Oh, yeah, conflict for sure. I think that's where, yeah, I'm very much making the distinction between conflict and a fight. We often disagree at our office. Like, and I disagree with Don or I disagree with Diana or anybody on our team like fairly regularly, but I don't know that we've ever fought and we've not engaged in white collar warfare against each other
Yeah, I
unless
don't,
you're the one that keeps throwing away my lunch.
I'm not throwing it away. You're, you're,
Eating
you're,
it.
You're
you're,
like, I'm just eating it. Your leftovers are really good.
you're a very talented chef, Stephanie, so I'm never going to throw it away. That's not what I'm going to do. That
I'm
wouldn't be
just kidding.
wise.
No one's eating my lunch. I would hunt them down.
Yeah, I know that you would as well. Yes, there is chili in the fridge there though too, if you did get hungry, because I did have some chili at home. So there you go, Stephanie. You can try my chili or eat my chili, whatever you want. There you go.
Oh,
I would give it
thanks,
to you.
Don.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So as the article goes through and the evolution of a fight, we're going to talk about these different stages that they kind of talk about. And let's talk about, is it a normal thing? Is it conflict? And I like that we're distinguishing between conflict and a fight. And conflict unresolved or conflict that becomes passive tends to elevate, right? It becomes more and more and more of a fight. It escalates itself. And if we're what we're talking about is not an avoidance of conflict, because conflict means we disagree with something. I'll give a really quick example. Like a couple weeks ago, we were doing our strategic planning review, which you should be doing as a company right now. If you're not doing that, you're not doing it right. You should be have you had a strategic planning review recently? If you haven't, if you're like, I don't even know what you're talking about, you're missing something. You should reach out to us and we can help you with that. But we were doing our strategic planning review and we were looking at one of our objectives and one of our goals within our objectives, and we make them green, yellow, or red as we're going along so we can discuss it as a team. And we had an objective that we think we're going to miss it. I say clearly going to miss it. We think we're going to miss it. We're off track. And we were on track all year, and it's at the very end of the year we're getting off track on it. And it's a goal, it's a number outside of something that, and the reason we're going to miss it is a little outside of our control. Some things happen a little outside of our control is the reason we're going to miss it. And Diana said, I think we should make it green because it is outside of our control and we did everything we could. And I said, Diana, I disagree. I think we should make it red because we missed the goal. Like we got to be okay with red. I think we should be okay as a team with reds. I look at Stephanie's face right now. Just Stephanie does not like it.
I
Stephanie's never
don't.
gotten a red.
I don't like it. I don't want the red. Yeah. I could have accepted in time a yellow, but I was with Diana. I was like, no, just green. We're all trying really hard over here. Don't give me the red.
When I like what and we've had a couple discussions since that meeting about that, and we didn't fight. There was no, I was never even a little bit angry. I don't know, Diana, were you ever a little bit angry about it? Now's the time. Go
No,
ahead. Thousands
no.
of listeners go.
No, I think I was like, yeah, you're right. Like I immediately was like, dang it, he's right. I don't, there was no, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not about right or wrong on that stuff. It's just that we have to be able to disagree with each other. We have to be able to have that. So what happens is that's bad is if it continues from conflict into a fight, and a fight means now we're starting to get on two different sides of something. And if we're on two different sides of something instead of being on the same side of something, it creates a problem. So let's start with step number one that they talk about in the article. And they talk about there's a point of difference. There's something that comes up. It could be the article talks about a battle over resources, an argument over strategy, a suspicion over a missing lunch or a phone charger or something, whatever that is. So let's talk a little bit about that. What is the impact on the person when that occurs? And how do we catch ourselves in that moment? Because that's the first step of a conflict. What are our thoughts there?
I think when you said in our example of like, I think it should be red, not green. I could have very easily in that moment been like, Don is disagreeing with what my tactic is on this. I am the one leading this meeting. I am the one tracking all of these goals, and he is telling me to do it differently, and I don't appreciate that. Like I could have very easily bristled and thought that it was now a you versus me moment.
I will note that you seem to have that really well prepared what you just said there. So was there a little part of you that felt that way? If you're,
No, This is
You
not
okay,
the right
Diana?
example. There are many moments where I have felt that way, but this one was not one of them.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah. So I mean, that point of difference was a minor point of difference, like in our example. And most of the time it is a minor point of difference, right? And imagine if like there's a couple of points where that could have failed. One could have been I never said what I was thinking. I could have just sat there and listened to it. And I've got a history of that. We've talked about that before. Like I'm trying to say more of what I'm thinking in my head. I'm trying to express when I see something that I disagree with or have a question about. And I could have just not said anything and I could have thought, well, oh, Diana's just handing out greens today.
Which is
Great.
so not like me, but
Which
still.
is it is not like you. It is not like you. Yeah. So, or Diana, I could have said something in that Diana could have, I could say take it wrong, or could have looked at it and said, I think that there's a problem
Mm-hmm.
with you, right, Stephanie? What do you think?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you asked the question earlier, Don. I think a lot of people would then internalize it of like, oh, well, Don's not then happy with my work, or he thinks I've done something wrong. And has he just been silently and secretly judging me this entire time? And now he's going to take this moment in front of the whole team to tell me I did it wrong. Like, I think a lot of people internalize it, they make it really personal versus like, hey, we didn't hit the goal, which is the problem. They start taking it just as a critique of them personally, and they start making up stories in their heads about, oh, here's what Don must think of me now, and they spiral.
Yeah, so like what you're pointing to is something we've talked about in past episodes of the narrative paradigm, right? The narrative paradigm, the idea it's narrative meaning story, paradigm meaning a theme. The world's too complicated for us to recognize all the things that are happening, so we oversimplify it, and we oversimplify it in terms of a story. So if we're in a meeting and I disagree with Diana, it would be really easy for Diana to go start a story of saying, well, Don disagrees with me, Don shoots me down, Don is my enemy. I need to fight Don. Or it would be really easy for me to not say anything in that meeting and say, well, Diana's always handing out this really, she doesn't care whether we hit the objectives or not. What's the point of doing this? And then later it comes out, if we don't bring it up, that point of difference early, it comes out later in different ways. It comes out as a stress. Like maybe we go do strategic planning 3 months later and Diana says, well, I think we should set the objective of that. And I, under my breath, say, not that it matters at all because we never follow our objectives anyway. And then suddenly everybody's like, whoa, where did that come from? Right? What happened there? That takes us into that next phase of the argument, according to you start to see this language start to appear. And the article talks about this overly formal language. Like we start to hear, you start to, the article says like on your emails, you start to say, well, dear Diana, Diana, in reference to our meeting of last Wednesday, it's the language starts to get a little bit weird. Where does that come from? Where's the weirdness start to come?
When you said this, I immediately remembered of a fight that I was in one time at work where this person told me what they thought happened. And I responded with, I am not going to sit here and contradict your reality, but I disagree with you. I was like, I would never say that to a normal human being in a normal situation. Like that, I don't know why I went there, but it is not like a normal phrase that I would say in
I'm
everyday life,
cracking up because I have literally said that before too, like in a
right?
conflict where I was like, you cannot tell me my version of reality is inaccurate and I will not contradict your version of reality. Like, that's not how I talk.
How I speak to anybody, but for some reason in that moment when I was angry and trying to just like I don't know what I was trying to do, but what in that moment when I was angry, that those exact words came out. It's very formal, very impersonal, and very like I'm trying to shift a narrative.
Yeah, yeah. Or I feel like we as people will do this sometimes too. Instead of just like going to talk to that person, then we're like, well, I need to put this in writing. And that's when like the dear Diana, email. And it's like, I'm writing this email in reference to our last conversation to recap what we spoke about. And then you like, it's just way overly formal. And people are like, well, I've got to get this in writing of what you said to me and when you said it and how you said it. So that way, like I've got documentation for the future. Or I've even seen people in conflict sometimes start like speaking to each other differently, where like normally they don't use each other's names in conversation. They're like, hey, could you? And they're like, walk to you like, Diana, I'm asking you if you would do this. And they start using each other's names even in a weird way.
Yeah, I always know when my husband's mad at me because he'll be like, Diana. And I'll be like, who's that? Well, don't you mean babe? Who's Diana? What are you talking about? It's a whole thing when you use
Oh.
someone's name. You're serious.
When I call you Diana, I just mean because your name is Diana. Just
Well,
FYI.
it's different. But
I
you have a
don't,
tone. If you're like Diana, I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? But if you're like Diana, I'm like, oh, crap. What did
Diana,
I do this time?
Diana,
Diana,
Diana. Yeah.
Diana. It's that.
So I think two things, lessons from there is one is we've started the story and we're kicking it down. And second is it's really hard to not communicate. It's really hard to not communicate with sometimes when we are upset with somebody else, it tends to show up in how we talk. There's the old the music, well, I didn't say anything. Well, yeah, you kind of did. You said things with your face, you said things with your tone. You said contradict your reality. Like it is a weird thing to say. It sounds like Taylor Swift's next album. Wouldn't that be a great Taylor Swift album? Like contradiction of reality. Like that kind of just throwing that out there if
Well,
Taylor's
and
listening.
one time an employee said to me, don't look at me with that tone of face. And I thought, well, she knows what I'm thinking, right? Like I was communicating without using the words.
That's my worst because I do not have a good poker face. I really wish I did. And even like, I mean, I had it at work maybe a couple weeks ago. Dawn, you're like, okay, so I've been thinking about something for a really long time. And I think I'm sitting there like completely neutral. And he goes, oh, it's not about you. And I was like, oh, I mean,
Oh,
I did. And
great.
he goes, well, your face. Or like last week, my husband was like, oh yeah, like this and like don't worry about it. And I was like, I'm not worried. And he goes, well, your face is.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
communicate without communicating sometimes. And
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
with the narrative that you're building in the fight, you're communicating in a negative way.
Yeah. And here's the thing, when somebody does that, we can read a lot in what the other person is saying, but we can't read everything. So I was in a meeting one time with somebody and they suddenly somebody said something, the person who was leading the meeting said something and another person reacted really negatively and the rest of the meeting seemed really irritated. Seemed really, really irritated. And I was watching the whole meeting from the side. I was like a third party just watching the meeting. And I'm pretty good at watching body language and everything. I was like, wow, why is that person so against what the manager just brought up in the room? Why is that employee doing that? So the manager came up afterward and said to me, said, what's that guy's problem? And I said, I don't know, but I do know from a healthy team perspective that you should go address it right now. Go find out right now what's going on. So he went to the person's office and they had a little chat and he came back out and said, oh, during the meeting, the guy had gotten a text from their teenage daughter or something that she had not done her homework or something or gotten in trouble or something. So he was just reacting to that, which had nothing to do with the meeting. It had nothing to do with the meeting, but it projected a similar body language to response. Now, some of you are listening to that and they're going, nope, I know it was a response to the meeting and that was just an excuse. But that's an example of a narrative paradigm right there. We react to lots of things. Our emotions are complicated. What we're thinking might not be what you think we're thinking. And the fourth thing that the article talks about is we start to heighten our positions. We start to elevate things. We start to kind of fire some shots. Now we're digging in. We're going to start to say something of saying, I'm going to throw out the Diana, I know you don't care about metrics that much. Or there's going to be some kind of a firing of a shot, right? And what are some other examples of the fire shots fired?
Oh man, I don't know. I like the one you just said of like, I know you don't really care about metrics. I think in the past, in that same fight that I was like, I'm not gonna, you know, whatever your reality. I think I said something like, well, it's your job to do this, and it's my job to do this. And I was very clear about the like, I don't care what you think in this moment. I'm supposed to be doing this job and I'm supposed to be doing these things, and you're standing in the way of that. And so I held my ground very, very tightly. And I wasn't this person's manager, but I was a manager. So I was sort of like leveraging my position in that, you know?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
shots have been fired. You're basically now what felt like a conflict is now an actual conflict because you're saying like you do that, I do that. We have a line now. You're distinguishing a difference between where the two of you are at.
Mhm. I'd say too, and we talked a little bit about this in preparation for this episode, but we'll see people do like passive, what they consider passive shows of power. Like now these people are copied on the email thread, or I copied my boss on the email thread, or this other colleague who maybe wasn't previously involved. Like now they're on the thread. So you and I both know they're there and that they know now all of the dirty stuff you're doing and how wrong you are. And it's like they do it very passively to be like, I'm going to pull in management. But it really is the equivalent of like stomping to your boss's desk and being like, Don's being mean to me and I can't get this done because Don's standing in the way. You're just doing that a little more passively just in an email.
Yeah, and that's the next step in the article they talk about is this elevation of power. And they do a couple steps of that. It's like it's a small elevation of power. Maybe I carbon copied my boss. Maybe I sent a just job description. Just FYI, I'm just not trying to start a fight. I'm just going to show you. Here's a copy of the job description. I'm just putting it out there. In the movie Office Space, when at the beginning of the movie, when he doesn't put a cover on his TPS report, and the managers are going and putting a memo on the desk and they're all like, just in case you didn't get a copy of the memo, I'm giving you a copy of the memo. That's an example of an escalation, right? It's an escalation of power. Like I'm showing you this power. This power move. I told you to do this and you didn't do it. So I'm just showing you now. All right, it's an escalation. When is it maybe okay to escalate like that? When is that power good to use in a workplace conflict?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think, I mean, there are sometimes instances where, like, if, and you guys can disagree with me, like, if there's a moment, I'm just thinking for our team where, like, trying to think when I would CC Don or Diana on an email or do anything like that. Like, if something was happening that felt like a really clear violation of our values, or a very, very clear like HR policy or something like that, I feel like then that would be where I'm like, hey, like I'm gonna loop Don and Diana in to like give some perspective on this or so that they can like share their thoughts because, like I'm not a manager and I know like I can't enforce this thing. So I'm gonna like at least loop in people who have some authority here to give an opinion on what to do next. But I think why maybe I'll say why I'm having a hard time answering that question because a lot of times when this is happening, it's just based on stories and not like a true fact. Like this person isn't bullying you. They just might not like you all that much. So, like, their emails aren't super warm and cordial, or this person is not violating the company values, but they're probably not easy to work with all of the time. They might not respond when you want them to respond, or maybe it is a conflict where you guys disagreed about something and now it has escalated into a fight. So, yeah, it's like it's a little hard to answer like when you really should, but I think there are some clear lines for me like values or policies or if you genuinely are like being personally attacked or bullied or harassed in some way. I don't know.
I like that distinction. Obviously, if there's a values or a safety concern or things like that, then that is a time to exercise the power that you do have. And I liked your distinction of saying, in our experience, most of the time when people feel like they need to exercise that power, they probably don't need to. It's probably an overrun. Another really good example that I run into quite a bit is when people read the resume or they start to go back in your career, like I'm what there'll be disagreement on a decision and somebody will fall back to their experience and go, well, I've actually got 15 years of experience on this. And that's really a terrible argument if you think about it, if it's right or wrong. Like talk about the thing, not about your experience or why you're well qualified to do it. Like it's just sharing opinions on things. Yeah, I think another time that occurs to me is like if you're a manager of an employee, And we talk about like whether an employee owns it or doesn't own it. If they own it, you're in the account, you're in the coaching loop, which means you're asking questions and you're guiding them through things. But if they don't own it, you're in the accountability loop. That's a time where, as a manager, you want to flash a little bit of power. I really think that's a good move, actually. If the employee's not leaning into this, there might be a moment where you say, if we don't resolve this, there's going to be consequences to this, or I may need to let you go, or I will let you go if that happens. Like, there are moments when that's not a workplace accountability. If you're in that loop, is not the time when you're trying to get along with everybody. That's not when you're trying to build relationships. So just wanted to make a distinction there for sure. So then the last stage of this, right, in the article is now like shots fired, lines are drawn, and now we are two separate entities. And now we always say like I'm the hero and you're the villain. It's the word they that appears in the organization. Well, they do this, or we do this, or they do this. Once that happens, once the they happens, how do you get past they? How do you get past the they lines that are out there?
I think it's really hard to do. Once you've built a story about someone, it's really, really hard to unchange or to change that story, to undo that story. And I think it takes both people or sides, both sides coming to the table and saying, we're going to clean slate this. We're going to start from a common goal and we're going to move forward from there. Like it takes a lot of intentionality to change that story. And sometimes it takes not just one or two things going right, but 30 things going right. Like it's a long process to get that to flip.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, Diana. Like it's really a process of rebuilding trust because even if like, maybe I really didn't do anything wrong, but like Diana, like your story about me has now become this. And so to you, I am an untrustworthy person because your narrative paradigm is your reality in your brain about me. And so, yeah, I've got to show you many, many times over that I'm trustworthy again. And so it takes, yeah, I think it does take the initial like, hey, we are going to put this issue to bed. We agree, to move forward on something here. We're going to wipe the slate clean to a certain extent, but it's probably doing that like over and over and over again, multiple times and having conversations, and probably like I think a good amount of humility on both sides if it's really going to stick to acknowledge like, even if you were right, quote unquote, in this scenario, like, could you have done something differently? And like, did you honestly encourage sometimes like the escalation or the battles here? And where are the moments where you could have just stepped back and de-escalated, or you could have not responded when they, fired something over the wall to you? So it's hard to work back from that. I think it also takes like a strong team to withstand it too. Like I'm thinking of a friend of mine she is in the like level 7 stage of conflict with someone at work now. And when she gives me her work updates, I mean, they are juicy. Wow, they're juicy because she and this person are having huge, huge conflict. But part of the problem is their whole team, including her manager, has just stepped back and said, that's between you two. So they also don't have a team that can talk about conflict and team that can talk about how to move forward. And so it's sometimes acknowledging, I think, too, that if the conflict has gotten to that point, it's not really between two people anymore. And like you may actually need your team to help work through some of this. And you may need to have a conversation as a team of like, how are we going to all of us do this better next time? So it doesn't get to this point where now sides are drawn or we're all just saying, oh, that's just, Stephanie and Don's conflict and problem. We all just try to stay really far away with it and manage around it.
Yeah, and I think it takes a high level of like emotional intelligence to look at something and say, okay, this is what happened. This is where I want it to go. And if one of these things happen again along the way, I'm not going to revert all the way back to this is war again, right? It's going to be like, okay, that happened. I'm going to address it. I'm going to open up a dialogue. I'm going to be communicative about how I didn't like it. And then we're going to keep moving forward. But I think that takes like serious emotional intelligence, you being the much bigger person, and also a high level of just like recognizing what is going on in the environment that is around you.
It strikes me, and I've never said this before. I think you have to pivot the story, not reverse the story. So if you think about like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker fighting lightsabers, if Darth Vader just in the middle of the fight like put out his hand and said, "You know what? I love you." Like that our brains can't handle that. Our brains aren't going to be like, "Well, that makes total sense." Our brains are like that doesn't make sense at all. That doesn't
Yeah,
make
I'm
sense at
pretty sure
all.
Darth Vader would just cut off his hand.
He probably just cut off his hand, right? At some point and just do that. But if you think about the movies, they do fight together by the end of the movie. So there is a way where they do actually resolve their conflict by the end. I don't want to spoil the movie for you, but it's by pivoting the story, not reversing it. They don't just say, okay, well, everything that's happened up to here didn't happen. They do an and then instead of but, right? They go and then, but this is the thing that we both have a common enemy for. So let's pivot and then maybe we can find each other. Maybe there is a shift in that. And Stefan, I love your point about if you're a manager of a team, it is death if you allow that conflict to continue to exist on your team. It can have nothing to do with you. It can have nothing to do with even something that happened in work. We've worked with small communities where something outside, where family conflicts or whatever happen outside and it's brought into the workplace. As a manager, what you have to be able to tell your team is like, that can't be brought in here. I can't see it. It's a threat to our team. And if you don't manage it and you don't handle it, then really bad things happen. And we've seen teams unravel because of that inability to step into it. So, so listen, hope you got a lot out of this episode. We want to talk, and I like the first point we made of like, we're talking about fighting, not conflict, right? Fighting on your team where it gets petty, where it gets formal, where it gets escalated is not typically necessary in most scenarios. Most scenarios, you're trying to build up team, not trying to break down team. Now, there are scenarios, there's exceptions to that, but in most scenarios, when you're trying to build relationships, you have to have conflict, which means the earlier in those cycles you can address it, the easier it is to pivot that story. But if you get deep into that story for yourself, if you're in the middle of it, think about how could you pivot the story. Think about your own story and where you might be wrong. That's a great way to approach it. And if you're a leader of a team, don't let it happen. Don't let it just keep going. Make sure you address it and say, I don't need you guys to love each other, but I do need you to show up differently at work and if you continue to escalate and it continues to be a threat on this team, I can't let that happen. You're in management mode, and if they own it, then you can coach them and say, here's how you can work with the other person. If they don't own it, then it's an accountability thing, and that's where you yield your power as a manager and say you guys can fight, but not both together and not at this team and not on my time. Like that kind of a thing. So there's a place for all of this. Everything here is about balance. So that's it. That's our episode for today. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you go fight well. You know what I mean? Go disagree with your people and your team, and that's okay. And then just make sure that you do it respectfully and do it the right way because that builds trust on the team.
Speaking of, Don and I have a conversation after this.
Oh, great. Oh, great. Another conversation. You can contact my assistant and try to get it on my calendar, and then we will
don't
have that
worry.
together, and I will have our HR representative with us.
Yep, that's
Oh
all
crap,
me.
that's you. That's you too. Dang it. Ah, always gets me. Diana always outpowers me.
Too much power.
All right. Well, next time we'll see you on People Centric Podcast where Diana will undoubtedly pick the topic again. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the People Centered Podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic. Until then, be well and lead well.